Hi, Tim Shields, Zaya America. Today we'll be discussing a Chinese martial arts flick known as SPL, or Killzone locally. As someone who spent the majority of their life overweight, I've held a very fond appreciation for the works of Sammo Hung over the years, ever since my brother bought me a Chinatown bootleg tape of Pedicab Driver when I was a kid. It seems like he and Donnie Yen are friends given their continued work together over the years, so I was initially drawn to this movie on two levels back in college when it hit stateside, already a fan of both actors. It's free on YouTube right now if you haven't seen it, although I have streamed it this week, so be sure to follow me over on Twitch if you haven't already. When Detective Chan, played by Simon Yam, learns that he has a fatal brain tumor, he makes it his primary mission to put gangster boss Wang Po, played by Sammo Hung, away for good. At the same time, Detective Ma Kun, played by Donnie Yen, a martial arts expert with a reputation for excessive force, joins Chan's unit as his eventual successor. After Wang's gang kills an undercover officer, Chan and his men alter a video to implicate the crime lord. Ma is not a party to this, but he nevertheless gets caught in the crossfire. The opening of this movie is very dreamlike and liminal, with broad shots of big open empty spaces that we would normally expect to be packed with extras. This, to me, is the definitive mid-2000s kung fu movie aesthetic, and something I love about the way that this one operates is how it'll show us these locations all movie in order to prepare us mentally for when they get destroyed later on. The first two scenes, in my opinion, form a beautiful dichotomy that exemplifies what I think the film is all about. Two stars crossing each other's paths collide quite literally, and it forms a gravitational pull of vengeance between them. Chan starts out in a state of bliss, and is yanked back to reality as his rival Wang Po attempts to assassinate him, which reveals the inoperable cancer ticking away at Chan's brain. I like this idea a lot because the same domino both takes away his reason to live by making him aware of his brain cancer, but also gives him a reason to keep going through his adopted goddaughter Hoi Yi, the only other survivor of the assassination attempt by Wang Po. It's a cool reflection of the coin flip of predestination, something we'll come back to later. It's just really interesting to me that the movie starts his journey by offering him two roads to take. I really dig the beach as a sort of purgatory metaphor for Chan. It's a break into the idyllic life that the trio wish that they could be living, but constantly keep preventing each other from attaining out of spite. You could even make the argument that his tumor is causing him to hallucinate it, given how dreamlike it comes off, that it's actually him slipping out of life over the events of the film. And I think that that's a really beautiful and subtle way of visualizing that. I also really love how they use size to convey power dynamics. Wang Po is decked out in these tremendous, luxurious, palatial suites, and there's all this room for the camera to really pull back and let us breathe it all in. It clashes beautifully against the cramped corridors and tiny boxes of the ordered and lawful police station, which is why the massive open beach is such a respite to Chan and his buddies. It reflects his morality. He longs for this openness. He doesn't want to be bound by all the red tape of the law, as we see throughout the film. This was such an interesting rewatch in the current context. SPL isn't afraid to be frank about corruption in both street and court-level justice systems, and that's something I see a lot of people discussing in the wake of Shinzo Abe's assassination and all the skeletons just falling right out of his closet. This is a gang war where one of the gangs happens to be the police, and I think that that's a really interesting approach to the material, especially considering how violent both sides are. Chan represents the Ki Sha, the power star. People with this sign are happy to uphold their morality if they're undisturbed in doing so, but aggressive and smart about retaliating when provoked, and merciless in dispensing what they view as righteous vengeance. The lengths that these men go to in order to capture this villain arguably drive them to the same depths that he occupies, and they wind up paying for it with their lives, while Wang Po is shown to be a human being with emotions and a family that he's constantly being deprived of time with due to this war, despite quite clearly being a monster when he wants to. These cops, led by Chan, raid Wang Po's operations. They steal his product. They steal his money. They kill his men. They fabricate evidence. They intimidate witnesses. Who watches the watchmen? Am I right? Ma is representative of Tan Long, the flirtatious star. People with this sign tend to exceed at what they choose to do, but they become bored very easily and are tempted by their desires into corruption, hence the flirtation aspect. Ma has dedicated himself entirely to the job and gives his life in pursuit of justice because of an earlier incident where an abuse of his power mentally disabled a petty robber, an act of life-changing violence that his co-workers disgustingly look back fondly on. He's shown to spend his time and money on the guy once a week as amends, but it's not enough, obviously, and it haunts him despite his friends playing it up like some act of heroism. Ma has sworn to himself to uphold the law to the letter, but the letter of the law repeatedly fails him throughout this movie, and he's ultimately tempted to break that oath by both Chan and Wong Po. He grapples with his responsibility and the failings of the justice system all movie, and finally succumbs to temptation and vigilante justice by trying to murder Wong Po and thinking that he's succeeded. And he's punished for that choice by Wong Po, who pushes him out of the window. However, that also kind of absolves him of the guilt of killing Wong Po, so I guess take that as you will? The disabled guy doesn't really get any resolution here, and I think that that's the one big failing of the film. Which unfortunately has the consequence of flattening the car with his wife and infant child inside, killing all three as Wong Po breaks down inside of his skyscraper upon realizing what his violence has wrought. Wong Po has won, and it cost him everything, like it did with Chun, like it did with Ma. 3 stars collide, and 3 worlds are destroyed, because 3 men chose violence. Wong Po obviously represents Po Jun, the ruinous star, and the final of our triple set. I don't think I need to spell this one out. The dude is a tank in how he just walks into people's lives and completely demolishes them. For him, it was Tuesday. But Tim, why are you talking about stars? Why did the title card mention Chinese astrology? Why is the name of this movie actually Sha Po Long once you break down the acronym? Why do you keep doing this? Why can't you just make movies about Ziwei Shou is a form of Chinese astrology that is regarded in modern times less as predestination and more as guidelines on how to approach situations from the point of most advantage, like a strategy guide or Sun Tzu's Art of War. This is demonstrated throughout the film in how the cast plays into opportunities to maximize their potential advantage against each other, both in their work and in their personal lives. Wong Po gets arrested, so he assassinates the witnesses and the cops. Chan survives and retaliates by wrecking Wong Po's car and threatening his life. Wong Po fights back by killing Chan's guy. Chan frames Wong Po. Wong Po exposes Chan. Chan kills Wong Po's guy. Wong Po has Chan's guys killed. Like, it just keeps escalating. It keeps going. It's an endless cycle of violence. Each man presses the advantage, burning resources to outdo the other until it finally culminates in neither of them having anything left to fight for because a third star accidentally got sucked into their orbit and they all exploded. Adding on to the idea, this film is set during Father's Day, specifically to highlight how much these men are prioritizing their pissing contest over their families, their communities, over building a better world for the next generation. It reminds me a lot of a Miike Yakuza movie. It's almost like an inverse of Dead or Alive 2 Birds, if that makes sense. In the end, it costs all of them exactly that, their families. Chan dies from his tumor, never having had the opportunity to spend time with his goddaughter because he was working on manufacturing a vengeance that she never even asked for. 2 of his co-workers sneak out into the gang-infested streets in order to reunite with family. One attempts to bond with his daughter, but she's only interested in doing personality tests out of a magazine. The other attempts to make contact with his dying father, but finds out that he's about a month too late. They're both killed for their work, both having expressed regret over their failings as family members. Ma has never had a chance to establish a family because he's so wrapped up in guilt over his violent past, and it ties him to the police force. It's ironic that the only real person that he has to spend time with, at least as far as we're shown that isn't on the job, is a victim of the job. It's a really upsetting dynamic to think about. Every one of these men has abjectly failed in their life's work and been consumed by it indiscriminately. It presents us with a morality play for us to parse for ourselves, without any judgment attached. It's a parable about the dangers of retaliatory escalation. It's basically Kamen Rider Gaim. Is Chan the hero or the villain for wanting vengeance for the death of his goddaughter's parents unprovoked? Is he justified in forging evidence to convict a murderer who's too smart to leave evidence behind? If someone murders your friend, are you allowed to murder their friend in kind? And does that mean that they're allowed to murder your friend in an Ouroboros cycle of an eye for an eye? Should Ma have played it by the book, or did somebody need to put an end to Wang Po's activities once and for all? Should he simply have let the matter go, reported Chan to stop Wang Po from escalating back, or would that have shown weakness that Wang Po could capitalize on? Naturally, this is all in service of some of the greatest fight scenes in cinematic history. Movies like this are why I don't get so invested in henshin hero fights. If you haven't seen Donnie Yen or Sammo Hung fight before, do yourself a favor and watch this film, because it is a monument to physicality. The obvious highlights are, of course, the famous knife baton fight and the final showdown, but SPL does a great job of filling in the gaps between action with actual ethical dilemmas to ponder over as the tension mounts. It's less compelled by the action as it is by the motivation for the action and how those motivations overlap and influence each other, and I love that. There's a reason that it's regarded as a highlight of 3 absolutely legendary careers. It's just an incredible movie, and I so rarely see people talk about it anymore, so I thought this was a great introduction to 2 of my favorite action movie stars, both of the time and presently. I think it's an incredible visual spectacle and a compelling drama, and I big time recommend it. I also had to set this up for the Enter the Fat Dragon retrospective that we're going to be doing on the next Patreon video. It's very weird. I don't know why it's like this, but you'll see what I mean when we get there. If you're watching this video, it means that you're a patron, and I cannot thank you enough. All my life, this is all that I've ever wanted to do, and I really appreciate your giving me this opportunity. Thanks especially to Tina for donating the AC cable for the camera. I'm finally able to just pound out filming instead of waiting 90 minutes every time I film 90 minutes for the battery to charge. Incredible stuff. Love it. I'm very excited to get more into some more of these thoughts-ons. I have commentary track ideas coming up. I have some collab ideas coming up. I have video ideas for the next, 3 years. So I'm very happy to start making some real content and giving you some bang for your buck instead of this serving as a glorified tip jar. Pages, coffee, most importantly the actual movie in the description below. Video and sub button coming up. It doesn't matter. You're subscribed already and liking all my videos, I assume, if you're literally giving me money to make this. So thank you again. Not going to waste your time. That's it for this one. I'm going to be back soon. I've got another regular video coming out probably next week, and then we're doing another Patreon video after that, and then back and forth. I think that's the way we're going to do it from now on. We're going to stagger a patron video and one of the big boys for the main area. This is good. This is good. I like this. I'm excited. That's it for this video, but I'll be back soon. Thank you again one last time for the support. It really does mean the world, and it makes a world of difference. I've been Tim Shields, and when it comes to tokusatsu, I'm your guy.